Technical difficulty. Man, not a good night for the Tech.
Yeah, we've not brought our A game. We're not playing up to the standard, guys.
Yeah. Well, take two. We have people watching again, so actually quite a few people watching. So sorry about that. I don't know how we got cut off in the middle. Let's do one more thing before we move on from football. Let's share the predictions, the projections.
Yeah, we got a little bump this week.
Here we go. Can you guys see that? Here's what it looks like now. I'm up to 8.15. It's the first time all year I've been above 8. Jeff was barely above 8. Now he's at 8.38. Paul, 8.3. Hoagie sent his in again, 7.79. All the analytics sites are right around 8.5, really close, averaging closer to 8.6. At this point, it feels like less than 8 wins is a disappointment. Agreed?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think given where you're at, you would probably put the over-under at 8.5, right? You know, or 8 if you were allowing for a push. 8's probably the number that would make sense if you're allowing for, you know, one screw up in a game that you probably should win and then not beating one of the top teams because they all happen to be top 10 teams because of course they are, because it's the Big Ten East. So yeah, I think that's fair. I think 8 is probably the round most likeliest number at this point. I'm guessing that's probably what the numbers say too. Oh, actually they say 9-3. So that's even better.
Yeah, it does say, this is from Team Rankings. I like how they do this. By record, the percentage chance for each record, and 9-3 is the most likely record. And one thing that's even more exciting, look at this row here. 10-2 more likely than 7-5.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's great. 10-2 more likely than 7-5. If they win this week, then you got to be looking at a 10-win season.
Well, I mean, I think if they win this week, all bets are off, you know, because that's the one thing that's been missing from this team the entire Locke's tenure. If you don't count the Penn State win during COVID with no crowd or any of that stuff, you know, they almost got Ohio State that one year. You know, they've had a couple close calls. They played Michigan well last year, but they haven't gotten it done, and they got to get that done if they're going to take this next step as a program. So, you know, before you can realistically sit here and say, we're going 10-2 this year, we're going to fight for the Big East title, they got to knock one of these teams off. This might not be the easiest one, but like they got to do it to somebody, and they win this game, all bets are off. If they lose this game, kind of as I was saying earlier, it kind of might remind me of one of those seasons that Ralph had after the ACC championship year, the one year where they got knocked off at Northern Illinois and lost to Florida State, but won pretty much every other game, and then beat up Tennessee in the Peach Bowl. And then the one year where they got beat by Notre Dame and lost to Florida State again, I think, and then basically beat everybody else and went to the Gator Bowl. So you can lose these games and still have a really, really good season. But you win one of these games, the conversation starts to change pretty quickly.
Agreed. Jeff, I thought you were going to say something. I guess not. Maybe Jeff can't even say anything with the tech issues. But maybe that's a good – yeah, he's muted there. We can't hear him. Maybe that is a good segue to basketball.
Oh, basketball.
Yeah. There's not much recruiting to talk about. Last week was the week of the bad news for recruiting. The only real big news this week is that the schedule came out.
Did we report that Matthew Hodge went to Villanova? Was that after or before you guys talked? That
was last week.
Okay. Yeah, that's not great. That's not great at all. So I wasn't here to whine and complain about it. So I feel like I have some pent-up frustration. But, I mean, basically at this point, your class is 2 players, really 1 player. I posted on the InsideMarylandSports.com message boards that, honestly, Derek Queen's recruitment is pretty much pass-fail for me. You just have to get Derek Queen. If you don't get Derek Queen, this class is a complete failure. There's just no way to salvage this class, knowing that you're losing Dante Scott, knowing that you quite possibly will or could lose Julian Reese and not get the big stud that you're apparently saving all your NIL money for, that you've been on forever, that's local. You just have to get him. You have to. You absolutely have to. You can't paper that over in the transfer portal. You can paper over the other stuff. You can go get yourself a guard, a point guard in the transfer portal. It's not optimal for me, but you can do it. There's a whole lot more guards out there than there are big men. And certainly Maryland in the past few years has been able to show, with getting Fats and with getting Young, that you can actually go out and do that and get a really good all-conference quality guard. But, man, you've got to get Queen. You just have to. And there's just really no excuse not to. And I know that Maryland has been perceived, at least, and reported to be in the lead there. But you're going against Houston with pretty much unlimited budget. Kelvin Sampson's excellent recruiter. They've got a connection to Team Thrill. And Indiana, who has thrown all their chips down on this one too. They're going to get Liam McNeely if they haven't already, who's pretty much Queen's best friend at Monteverdi. You just got to do it. You got to find a way. And I just don't know any other ways to talk about it, man. It's really just the whole class comes down to that. Now, Oliagu, the Canadian kid, who's excellent, 2025 currently, could end up being a 2024. Certainly been reported that that's the more likely scenario. But he's an overtime elite. He's Canadian. You've not had a lot of good juju with guys like that. And again, if it becomes an NIL situation, where's that money coming from if you're saving a lot of it for Queen? So that would be great. Certainly you get both of those. We're high-fiving and calling it a successful class. But if you strike out, man, that's pretty much just as bad as you can imagine for a second-year class and a little bit of a rebuild here. After this, you're probably going to lose the majority of the starters this year.
Check out the...
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Yes, we can. Can you hear us?
Oh, my God.
Can you see the chat on the screen, the pop-up chat? That's the first
I can indeed.
See, Jeff's in an underground bunker because he's been dealing with the Hodge recruiting fail and deep reporting on Derek Queen. So that's why he
send me into
down there.
That's right.
Give us the
Send me into a deep depression.
on Queen and Oliagu are the only two. Oliagu, the only two. It's the path left for them to have a decent class in 2024. So give us.
Well, if you don't account for the portal, obviously, because I think that Kevin Willard clearly entered this with his list, and he was like, if I miss on whatever number of these guys, then we're going to rely on the portal. That's the. I mean, I know this is their strategy. We want to get Queen and Oliagu, and then address any needs in the portal. If we don't get one of them, then we'll address that need in the portal. I don't think they see a lot of guys in this class that they really like. I think the local class in 24 is not that great. And so they're all in on those guys. It's not like he doesn't understand that if he whiffs, that's a bad thing and you still need to get somebody. But on the flip side, there's only 2 scholarships open at this point. So it's not like you're looking for a 5-man class and you don't have a commitment yet. That said, most teams do have commitments by now. They don't have any still. And so I can understand why fans are starting to grumble, especially with this dry spell of Jaden Mustaf to Georgia Tech and then Hodge, obviously. So I understand the concern, but I would say that they're definitely nowhere near panic mode over there. And as I wrote on the site, I'm definitely not in panic mode about Derek Queen.
One other thing I did for basketball that I thought was kind of cool, Isaac Trotter from 24/7 Sports, he put out a list of the top 100 players in college basketball this season. Let me share this with you. I put all of it into a spreadsheet. Surprise.
Way.
But I did some number crunching, which I thought was kind of cool. So here's the list of players down the side here, right? All right, all 100. Maryland's got 2 guys in there. Julian Reese at 95. And
So here's the list.
and Jameer Young at 22. And then I gave points, 100 points for number 1, 99 points for number 2, et cetera, all the way down. And then I added them up by school. Maryland is 25th. One thing that's super surprising to me, the Big East has 4 of the top 6: Creighton, Villanova, Marquette, UConn. 4 of the top 6. And they've got a few. St. John's is in there. Providence is in there too, lower down. That's really good. And then I sorted it by conference as well. And the Big East is dwarfing people.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a
this is
basketball conference, right? They don't have to worry. They can pour all their money. I mean, Marquette quietly is one of the most well-funded programs in the country. People don't realize that. And Villanova might have more NIL money than anybody, literally, including Duke and Kansas. If they don't have more, they've got very close to the same amount. So when you're a basketball conference, you can pour all of your resources. That does give you a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah, I kind of respect in a weird way, given all these conference shenanigans, that the Big East is just like, F it, we're just going to focus on basketball, and that's what we're going to do. And it obviously this is just top 100 players, not their full rosters or anything like that. But I think it's pretty representative in terms of the Big East is like they mean business. It's kind of in a way what the ACC has tried to kind of do both, kind of straddle being a historic basketball conference, but also be competitive in football. But you're not seeing the results there the way you're seeing in the Big East. They have basically thrown all their chips in basketball, and they're starting to show out. So it's not surprising to see them up there. I mean, it's an impressive thing. I'd be surprised if the Big Ten can really handle the Gavitt games the way this is going.
The Big Ten, Illinois and Michigan State are the top 2 here. And again, it's only Illinois with 2 players in the list, Michigan State with 3 players in the list. But it does give some sort of insight into the talent levels on the teams. There's Illinois, Michigan State. There's Purdue with 1 player getting them 100 points. It's Zach Edey, the number 1 ranked player in the list.
Yeah, that's
Maryland's next here at 25 with 85 points combined points between Jameer Young and Julian Reese. And then there's not much more. Northwestern in here. Boo Booey's in there. I think Rutgers. Yeah, Rutgers and Michigan each have a player
Ace
as well.
Baldwin's in there for Penn State.
Oh, right. Penn State. Forgot Penn State. Rutgers and Michigan. It's easy to forget Penn State.
It is.
Yeah.
At least in basketball.
In basketball, right?
I don't know.
You feeling on this year, Jeff?
Yeah. What's that?
You feeling Penn State in basketball this year?
What's the you would hope so. State running like a 70% clip against there the past few years. Unbelievable. I mean, a lot of that was during this final down few years of Mark Turgeon, but carried over last year. That last game that they blew at the end of the season with the offensive rebound that went off Hakeem Hart's hand, it's like a curse against Penn State. The funny thing is, State cares about. They'd rather get like a punter recruit than win most of them, I think.
Well, Jeff was going in and out there, but I think the gist of it was just that
they've owned us for some completely random reason.
It's not random. It's not random that Maryland, to them, Maryland and basketball is what they are to us in football. And unfortunately, the talent levels are close enough where they can will themselves to victory, whereas Maryland can't do that in football as regularly.
Yeah, I mean, I made that comparison on the message boards recently that, Maryland football and Penn State football, or Maryland basketball and Penn State football are kind of comparatively to the same in terms of the way the other school looks at that program. It's just Penn State, for some reason, in basketball has been able to kind of kick our ass at times, which really doesn't make any sense. But I don't know. What are you gonna do? I'm still not worried about them, and I don't consider them some sort of like basketball threat to us in any way. They just happen to play well against us.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Comment in the chat from Del Boca Vista. Understand this list has basically no freshmen, so basically doesn't count recruiting classes. Kentucky has just 2 people, et cetera. So grain of salt, and that's a very good point.
I mean, it's you never quite know how freshmen are going to turn
Right.
out, right? Some of the some top 200 kid is going to end up being a stud, and some top 10 kid isn't going to get off the bench. Like you just, you can make those lists in January, right? Once you see what you get.
But still a cool list and a good way to when you crunch the data that way, it did provide some insight. Particularly the Big East thing was very noticeable, and the Big Ten being in fourth there, just not having that much talent despite having many more teams, right?
I mean, Larry, the Big East thing shouldn't be that surprising when you look at how they've done in March compared to the Big Ten, right?
That's a good point too. Yep.
Yeah, and I think again you get back to when you talk about the March results, it's like the Big Ten, they are exactly what we thought they were when we were in the ACC, right? Whereas the ACC and the Big East, like they're really top heavy, but those top heavy teams, it seems at the top, are like really elite good teams, whereas the Big Ten has never had that top group of their teams really make big runs. Wisconsin a couple years ago. But mostly Michigan State every once in a while. But
Yep.
A lot of times you go and you kick ass in the Big Ten, and you're still out in Sweet 16 weekend. So I think
Ohio State under Mata made 2 Final Fours. Beeline made with Michigan, so they've had some instances where they were close.
that's a while ago now, right?
I know it is. I know
Yeah.
it is. But everyone knows the funny but interesting tidbit that Maryland is the last Big Ten team to win a national title. Right.
I feel like those Pac-12 teams joining the conference should help. They're going to kind of force teams to recruit better athletes and play more up-tempo, I think.
I sure hope so. I mean, you would think so, right? I mean, just by playing style, some of those West Coast teams coming in might change the way the conference likes to play basketball. Obviously, if it was Gary Williams' Maryland team, that would have done that, but Turgeon not so much, and certainly Rutgers is not going to do anything but dogfight you.
Jeff, that's really it, right? There's not much more news going on. The recruiting.
I mean, they did have a huge recruiting weekend for underclassmen last weekend. They had, I think, 15 or 16 of their top 25 and 26 class recruits. I think they're pretty well positioned with a bunch of those guys early. Biggest thing to me is going to be deciding who to prioritize, because there's so many good players in the area in next year's class. So, we know who some of the top guys are. Clearly, the guys we write about regularly, but there's a lot of other guys who maybe aren't top 30 or whatever, but are still top 100 or right outside, who they feel like will end up being really good players. So, so that's going to be interesting to see. I think next year's class will be a much bigger class, and I think they laid the groundwork early, because these are the guys who Willard came in, and these guys were still fairly young when he came in. They can recruit them at an early age. So that's really the only other news otherwise. But, Blink of an eye, we're going to be watching basketball.
I would really like to point out this comment that was made. Makes me very happy. Enjoying Larry's spreadsheets. Thank you, Jerry.
At least somebody is.
See, I secretly you love the spreadsheets. You just have this shtick that you do on the show to try and act like you don't like it. You act like you're above it. That's your whole thing.
No, I don't. I don't hate the spreadsheets. I'm just incapable of doing that type of detail work. Like that's just not. That's not how I roll.
That's
I'm
all.
I'm just wheeling and dealing.
Jealous.
Yeah.
Yes, I am jealous. I'm absolutely jealous. I mean, I wish I could do that kind of stuff. Larry just pulls us out of his ass.
Me too. I wish I had the organization.
All right. It is time for Paul's favorite segment of the show. Let's hear from our boy Wheels.
Hey everyone, this is Wheels with your Inside Maryland Sports Non-Revenue Report. Can anyone explain what's happening with the men's soccer program at late? The Terps fell last night to Rutgers in a ride a 4-game losing streak right now.
Wow.
They've not won a game since a 2-0 win over UNC Greensboro back on August 27th.
Can't score goals.
Right now, they're sitting at 1 win, 6 losses, and 2 ties in the season. The Terps are probably in a situation where they have to win the Big Ten tournament to qualify for the overall NCAA tournament.
That's crazy.
They play at home against Bowling Green this Saturday, looking to break that losing streak. Women's soccer similarly continues to struggle. They have a 3-game losing streak and an overall 5-game winless streak that has
Wow.
seen them outscored 14-0. They welcome Rutgers on Saturday to College Park.
What is going on?
Volleyball had its 2-game Big Ten win streaks ended when they lost at number 22 Ohio State this past Sunday.
This is all just terrible
There's no end
news.
in sight to high
Great
quality
segment,
opponents
Larry.
in Big Ten volleyball, though. They head to number 16 Minnesota on Friday.
Should I
Finally,
stop this now?
Maryland's
Oh, he's
12th
almost
ranked
done.
field hockey team welcomes Michigan State to College Park on Friday. Terps dropped a shootout game at number 6 Rutgers last week before
Nothing but
posting a
losses.
complete win over number 16 Penn State
There
this
we go.
past Sunday.
One
And that's
win.
it for your IMS non-rev sports report. Have a great week, everyone. Take care.
That was the
And
most
that's-
depressing non-rev report
I
ever.
know what's going on.
That's some
Non-revs
garbage.
usually like boost up when football is not good. The non-revs are winning everything.
Oh,
I
don't
was
worry.
gonna
Don't get-
unleash thousands of words of scoop on soccer and field hockey tomorrow, and now it's like, what's the
Now
point?
you can't.
I mean,
No
don't
one's
get me
gonna
wrong.
care.
I will trade the non-rev misery for football staying undefeated every time, twice on Sunday.
I think that
So
goes
that's-
unsaid.
Yeah.
Look at this. Another comment that loves the detail of my spreadsheets. Look at this. Everybody loving the spreadsheets. Look at this.
Y'all need to slow down on some of this
The
Larry
moment
praise.
he's
I
dreamed of
love
all
it.
his life.
I love it. Another comment, just people listening back. It says, as a CPA, I love the detail of the spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are my life. Look at that.
Yeah.
Antoine Cuff. That's right. They're my life too. I'm a data nerd. You like Power BI, Antoine? That's my new toy. Love it.
You guys just
Nerd.
become best friends?
Yeah. Did we just become best friends?
Yep.
Yep. All right. We're going to end with true or false. We did this last week, but I got the show ready in about 10 minutes, as you can tell from the tech issues, which were not my fault, by the way.
No. Those were all me.
They're
I'm
not
not
my
letting you
fault.
take the bullet. I'm not letting you take the bullet on that one. This was a long day, and it ended like a long day.
Yeah.
So I will be better next time. As Paul said earlier, I did not play to the standard. I'm going to finish, start strong and finish strong. next
Okay,
week.
Loxley. Did not play to the standard. All right,
Not
true or
at all.
false? Jeff, Maryland will beat Ohio State this week.
True or false? No, I can't see that. I mean, I think they'll give them a better game than they have at Ohio State. You know, they've been blown out by an average score of 63-17 there in 4 games, which is really unbelievable. I mean, 63 to average that in 4 meetings is crazy. So, you know, they've only been able to challenge them at home. I think that they'll play them closer. I don't know if they can hang in the trenches. Skill position wise, I think they can hang, but I'm just not sure they can hang on both sides of the line.
Paul, Cam Edge will be a better quarterback than Talia Tungavailoa. Not more prolific stat-wise, better.
False. I mean, I wouldn't say that any recruit is going to be better than one of the best quarterbacks likely in Big Ten history. I mean, let alone probably the best quarterback in Maryland's history, at least in terms of stats and output and things like that.
We talked about this last week. We talked about it with Ralph. Is he the best or is he just the most prolific stat-wise? He's played way more games. Boomer played like 2 seasons, maybe like 1. Frank Reich 1. So those guys don't have stats. It was a different game. So
Yeah, I don't think you can compare
Right.
Leah's stats
impossible.
to what those guys were doing in the 80s. Like, it's just, you know, you're talking about guys who play, you know, Neil O'Donnell played in the NFL for like 300 years.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
Stan Gelball, Scott Zolak. Like, these were good players on top of the obvious ones, Boomer and Reich.
Sean Hill, I don't know. if
Sean
you saw
Hill, Scott McBrien. I mean,
the
Talia
50s
is,
guys.
yeah, Scarbath was the second pick in the draft, right? So,
Yeah, and second in Heisman voting. Could you imagine having a quarterback second in Heisman now?
right.
How crazy that would be.
Yeah, so I mean, Leah's in the conversation. I mean, I
Yes.
think that's all you can really do. You get like those top 5 guys, and like it's one of them.
Hey, if he throws for 400 and gets the upset this weekend, he might be in the Heisman conversation.
He certainly has.
Yeah.
He has the opportunities against these 3 big teams, and whatever happens towards the end of the season, to certainly make his argument that he's maybe the best ever. But in terms of results, you can't say that. I mean, but the numbers speak themselves too.
Jeff, the basketball schedule came out this week. The non-conference schedule for basketball isn't great.
True. Yeah. I mean, especially at home, right? It's pretty rough. I think last year Willard clearly was not thrilled by that brutal December run with Tennessee and Wisconsin and Illinois all mixed in. And so, that might have had a little bit of influence on it, although some of it was, was already scheduled. But yeah, I think it's not a terrible schedule. You still have UCLA and Villanova. That's two pretty good games, but I'm not expecting to see Xfinity packed for those early season non-conference games, knowing how Maryland fans roll when it comes to non-brand name teams.
Paul, the pregame show for Michigan is going to be amazing.
Well, sure. But given the technical difficulties we seem to run into, I'm only a little bit more nervous than I was before what we've done the past few weeks. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We're all going to be together. We'll all be in the suite. We're going to be doing a little game day action. We just need to figure out a way that we can do that and make sure the technology doesn't make us look like a bunch of assholes. So I promise you we will spend the next month doing that. And actually we're going to talk about that as soon as we're done streaming this. So there you go.
Damn, that's like when you hear your parents say, "I'll talk to you about it later." That's how I felt when you said that right now.
Honestly, Jeff, your internet is not going to be the issue for that. I can assure you that much.
There we go.
That's all I got for you guys this week. No more true or false. Like I said, I was kind of rushing at the end there. I'm doing some training at work. It's like when you're doing the training, I can't duck away for a while and work on my agenda and read the board and see what's going on, right?
Yeah, it's so crap.
I know they expect me to work for my money. I mean, what's
actual work?
What is going on here?
Come on, man. It's not what we do anymore.
What is going on? Anyway, loved having Ty Felton on the show. People watching this are going to have to go back to the other video to see Ty Felton. We're in two pieces this week because of, I don't know why.
Some random reason
we got shut down and started back up again. So we're in two pieces this week. We will do better next week. Hopefully. I said that with confidence. I don't feel that confident at the moment.
We just needed a couple weeks to get used to the new platform. We'll be good to go. Moving forward.
Everybody, please do us a favor and subscribe to us on YouTube. We're nearing 900 now. Still trying to hit that 1,000 mark barrier. We are now on BitChute. We are now on Odyssey as well. We're on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So you can find us everywhere. And of course, you can find us on our main website, which is Maryland.247sports.com. This is IMS Radio. We will see you guys next week.